All right, yo, we back with another video. So today, obviously, I was just chilling, enjoying my day, and then we got pinged in the Discord, essentially going over that there's going to be some new things coming to the JP version of JJK Phantom Parade, and that's going to be actually buffs, right? Now, obviously, they did mention some time ago that we were going to be receiving buffs for some characters, but there turns out to be even more characters that are also going to be receiving buffs. This is essentially going to be the second time that they buffed characters. Some characters you've already going to have seen before, especially on the first time that they made buffs, and then some characters are going to be new characters that people probably didn't really expect too much. But to be honest, in my opinion, I definitely expected it because there is some kind of issues with these specific characters that people just really aren't highlighting. So we're going to go over the first character that they're going to be buffing. We're not going to go into too depth detail, but I'm going to kind of talk about what their cons are with the character, like their drawbacks, which kind of essentially need to get buffed in some specific manner to actually make them more viable. So first off, we're going to be starting off with the first character that they're going to be buffing in red, which is going to be Maki. So as you know, Maki is literally the worst SSR unit in the entire game on JP and global. The reasoning for that is just because obviously her last effect is super conditional. So they already buffed her before, but it's super conditional. So obviously you get 15% taijutsu damage, but the more enemies that are in the wave. So obviously if you only have one enemy, which a lot of the time when you're doing tower, there is going to be times where you run into stages where there's only like one enemy or two enemies. It just doesn't give you that much value. Sometimes it can ramp up, right? The heavenly restriction can ramp up, and you kind of can get some crazy value out of it. But at the end, like all her skills, like her damage modifiers on all her skills are pretty bad, literally pretty bad. Like I don't know why they didn't change any of this. 150% is complete shit. Like 135% is complete shit. 105% is complete shit. The ult is okay. It's a single target though, but yeah, like it's ridiculous to me that they didn't change any of her skills, only her passives. So yeah, this character definitely needs the buff. Hopefully this time the buff is more so on her actual skills and increasing the modifier overall. Anyways, that's going to be the first character that's getting buffed. Now let's talk about the second character that's actually going to be getting buffed, which is going to be Panda, right? So this Panda's on the JP version, definitely not on global yet, right? So here we have Panda. Now, this Panda doesn't really see that much use. He can decrease the enemy's damage that they do. And then obviously he can take a hit, right? Decreasing his own damage and of course attracts enemies to him. And then obviously decreasing the enemy's crit hit resistance. But I don't think it's that much value considering it's like it's only a 15% damage reduction. I think it needs to be a little bit higher if he's going to be tanking. But I do really like that it's 10 curse energy. So that's really nice. Then you have this one, which increases your own taijutsu damage, but you're not really using him for his damage output. You're mainly using him to tank if you're going to use this character. There's just so much better red characters that can do damage. Then you have the Ultimate Seeker of the Gorilla, which does damage to a selected enemy, and then increases damage depending on how many attacks that you have been received, up to 64%. That is so useless. Like, you need to receive a specific amount of hits so that way you can do the maximum amount of damage. I don't really like this part. It's just like, just give him the damage straight, flat out. Like, he's not going to be doing anything crazy as it is. Like, we have other characters like Toji who are like giga level. So, like, what's the point of even like making it so like weak? Like, balancing it, trying to balancing it. It's like, whatever. Obviously, Core Switch is amazing. Having a Grand Revival status, which then you can also put another memory on, like Sukuna's Vessel. So that way you can get an even further revival status, right? So you can have two. Not bad. And then at the start of each turn, increase Kalpa's count by 1 for 4 turns. And then obviously, you know, there's going to be a lot of parts in his effect that have Kalpa's count. I don't really think that matters too much, though, because it's like, whatever. This character just needs a little bit more to it, aside from just being a tank and then trying to have like some damage on the side. It's okay. It's just tanks don't really see that much play in the game, especially when you have like Gojos, etc., who can just like dodge all damage and then you could just like capitalize off of that. Now let's move on to the next character. So the next character is actually going to be one that everybody knows, and this is going to be YUTA Kotsu? Whatever, fuck his name, bro. It's YUTA. Anyways, everybody thinks this character is a perfect character. No, this character is not a perfect character. First off, you only using skill 1 when you have no curse energy. That's the standard for a lot of characters. But his skill 2, which is curse speech, It does have an AoE attack, right, and decreases all crit hit resistance. Crit hit resistance is nice, right, if you're paired up with Toji, who wants to crit. I mean, although Toji will crit a lot of the time. This just doesn't have that much use. Curse speech is kind of like irrelevant in most cases. So the only skills you really even care about is skill 3 and your ultimate. Now skill 3 does a lot of damage, so there's no need to change this whatsoever. I think this is like its best move that isn't his ult, obviously. And then you have your ultimate. Now your ultimate has so much power, but a hindrance to it as well, which is you're unable to fill your ultimate skill gauge for 4 turns. I don't understand why this is a thing when we have other characters who can do 2000% damage, right, to all enemies, and then they don't like draw they don't put a drawback on themselves with unable to fill ultimate skill gauge. This literally makes no sense on why they even bothered to do this. So it's just like, why is this here? Fix this, increase the modifiers from these two, make it like 50% for 4 turns or some shit. And yeah, just fix this shit. It's like there's no need that he's unable to fill his old skill gauge when there's just other characters who are outputting as much as he is, if not more, and are able to do it multiple times, like Toji, for example. It's just ridiculous. Then you have your passive, right? So I Won't Let You Die. I have no issues with I Won't Let You Die. I think the biggest problem with I Won't Let You Die is that it should also heal himself, not only allies, just because a lot of the times you'll be healing only your allies, but then he will end up dying ahead of time, and then you don't get the full maximum usage of I Won't Let You Die. So that's just my biggest grief with this. I definitely think that they should add an AoE heal to including himself. Now, I heard some people are going to say that would be too OP. That's not going to be too OP. Like, some of these people on Discord saying this too OP, that's ridiculous, bro. You have characters like Toji, who's constantly healing himself, has damage reduction, has all this stuff to give him survivability, right? It's like him healing himself is not going to change like a dramatic amount, but it does give him like probably like a grace turn, like 1 extra turn to actually, you know, keep him alive, right? Because the tower is still going to be one tapping a lot of your characters regardless whether you have those heals or not. It's not going to be major game breaking or anything. Like if you're doing tower is going to still be slapping you left and right regardless of you having an AoE heal. It's just having that extra heal on top of him would be nice as well to keep him alive before you can ult, right? Don't bully Yuta. I don't feel like this is that useful. It's like realistically, it's just like, how many times does this proc? Rarely ever. So I don't know. This shit is complete dog shit. It's like whatever. It's like once in a blue moon that you get targeted as a red when you're in type advantage, and on top of that, a chance that you're gonna even counter at all, right? So it's like whatever. I definitely think they do need to fix the I Won't Let You Die and just give it a heal as well to himself, and then ult needs to be able to fill ult skill gauge. Like, just remove this part. This is unneeded. And then he'll be at least a lot better than he is before. Now, keep in mind, with a lot of these buffs, we've already had buffs changes before, and they weren't anything crazy. So I'm not going to be expecting anything crazy for this one either. I think they're trying to be cautious when trying to buff characters so that everything can stay a little bit balanced. Now that we've already finished talking about the red characters, let's actually move on to the blue characters, right? Because now we're going to have the blue characters. So we're going to have Megumi Fushiguro again getting buffed. This character is complete dog shit. They keep buffing him, but he's just not getting any better. Like, I don't know what they're doing. They're just not thinking. Now, you want to make this character better? Well, the problem lies with his ult. The fact that you need to get into your ult so you can have Divine Dog Totality are active, so that way the rest of your kit is a lot better, right? It's just like, it's ridiculous. Then you have characters like Green Megumi on JP who just do it on their skill 2 and their whole kit is better. That's it. It's as simple as that. But then he has to go to his ult to have a better kit. It's just ridiculous. It's just like, like, bro, you got to be kidding me. And then when you actually have Divine Dog Totality, so the second time you throw his ult, then you'll have 1000% modifier. It's like, it's just kind of funny how like bad they made this character. He increases his own break damage, so I feel like he would have a little bit more value if they increase this break damage to 100% rather than 40%. There's characters like obviously Inumaki and other characters like Green Gojo who have 100% break damage, and it's just on the skill. There's no reason that he can't have it on an ult. It's just like what's going on here? Just give it to him. Decreasing own damage received by 1 turn is like, it's not really that necessary or useful. Extremely situational, so yeah, I don't really like that. There's a lot of things in this kit that could be better. I just think he needs a damage buff. Nobody's using him for his survivability. People are using him for like his CC. So if they can increase the modifier for how how high of a chance his CC is. So like, for example, obviously Inumaki goes way higher than this. If they can increase this to like an extra 30-40%, he'll get a little bit more use out of it, right? Because then people might want to actually use him over Inumaki, right? Red Inumaki, if you're trying to use Inumaki for CC, because then you'll get damage out of it and you'll still get the CC, and it's still roughly the same, or if not less. I think it's less cursed energy, right? I think the CC from Inumaki is 30. I might be wrong, but either way, if it's not 30 and it's 20, it's still the same, right? So then you would get more value out of this character who can actually tank, do damage, and CC. So yeah, and then increasing break damage would also give him a little bit more value. So yeah, this character definitely needs a buff. Again, obviously, hopefully they make him actually good. Next up, we're going to be talking about the next blue character, which is, excuse me, not this one. We weren't going to talk about this one yet. We're going to talk about Todo. Yeah, they absolutely flopped on this character. He had absolutely no use. He was a blue character. He decreases his own damage, recovers his own HP, but that's all he does on skill 2. It's like, okay, so what do you want me to do with skill 2? This practically does nothing for me, right? It literally does nothing for me. All you do is just go into the Takuta-chan's guidance. That's it. I think they just need to buff his damage, and like on his Takuta-chan's guidance, add like some kind of like buffing, like some kind of damage buff, something, right? Next up, we're gonna have Kamo. Now, even on the JP version, Kamo didn't really see that much play. People got him as soon as he released, and yeah, there was just like no value to him. Surely they'll make him better, but like, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I think he just needs a little bit more to his kit. It's just like he has damage, I guess, right? But single target damage is just, I don't know. And then Tsujutsu and Taijutsu and Jujutsu damage, only 3 turns. I feel like maybe 4 turns would be a little bit better. That would give him a little extra bit of a buff. And then obviously this is really nice. The recover curse energy by 5 every turn is really good, because then that essentially makes you be able to spam your skill 2 with ease, right? Because it's only going to cost you 10, and then you're always going to get 10 every turn. So this is really spammable. It's very easy. I just think they should add like some kind of like damage buff onto it. But other than that, there's not going to be too much use out of him either, just because obviously, even though he has a 1300% modifier and he can target one enemy for big damage with, you know, of course, increasing your own damage by 30%, there's just no reason for you not to use Gojo when Gojo has an AoE attack. He has a buff that it's an insanely high buff, and he could just he has way more better stats than Kamo. So it's just like Kamo is a DPS character, and unfortunately he is getting griefed by Gojo. And yeah, Gojo is just Gojo, you feel me? So Gojo unfortunately obviously bricks the game very often in each typing category, that there's like no reason to use the other characters. But he can use a little bit more damage. His numbers aren't quite what I would be expecting with all those buffs that he has in his kit. Next up, we have Geto Zero. So I'm kind of glad that they're going to be buffing this character. This character definitely needs to get buffed. His debuffing capabilities, amazing. There's no problems with his debuffing capabilities. Like, look, he literally, if your own curse energy is 30 or above, decreases enemies Taijutsu damage by 33%, you will always be above 30. You will always be 30 energy or above easily, because you're going to get 10 from your turn, and then you're going to get 20 also from, you know, just his characteristic, right? So that's going to be very easy. And then, of course, if your own curse energy is 40 or above, then you'll increase the selected enemies Taijutsu damage received by 33%. So realistically, this is actually very easy to obtain as well, because when you're doing hard content, not specifically tower, but when you're doing hard content that has multiple waves, you're kind of just stacking up your curse energy anyways. And then when you get to the final wave, you just keep spamming this 3 times. That enemy, if they do physical damage, they're not going to do almost no damage to you. On top of that, you're going to do way more curse damage to them. This skill is amazing. If they could lower it to 20, that would be better, right? Because then that means you can just spam it every turn. Curse Spirit Manipulation, lower this to 25 or 20, and we're chilling there too. I think 20 would be nice. And then obviously lower the requirements for this too. Lower this to 20, so that way it's always always active, and then lower this one to 30. Then we have the ult. So the ult, remove the restriction. Well, don't remove the restriction. What you need to do is just buff this. Just buff it to 1000% range to do damage to all enemies, and then still have this buff. So that way you can get an increased modifier on top of that 1000%. So that way he actually feels usable. Absorption, obviously every Geto practically has this shit. So it's like, I'm not going to really say much about this. It's just like with the UGs where they all have the Sukuna's finger shit. So it's like whatever. Other than that, I think just buffing his damage output with his ult, and then obviously lowering the requirements for his skill 2 and skill 3 would definitely make him a lot better. Way better. Next up, we are also going to be getting buffs for the SRs Maki, Toge, and Panda from the Jujutsu Kaisen 0 collab. I'm not going to really go over them too much. Those characters, they just kind of all need damage buffs. Their damage are extremely low for that a character like that. Like Panda, I think he has like a 300% modifier or whatever on his ult. It's ridiculously how low it is. I don't know what they were thinking with that. But yeah, all those characters, they're just really bad. They just need buffs overall. I'm not going to really talk about them. Next up, we have Yuji. This is going to be the first time Yuji's getting a buff. This character, I think this character is built really well, but Red Yuji just does everything he does, but better. I think, because like Red Yuji, he on skill 3, Red Yuji can do damage, increases his buffs, like his damage buff, and then obviously gain ult gauge all in one. Meanwhile, this Yuji, you're just kind of like spamming skill 2 attentive because it gives you ult skill gauge and it also increases your crit hit rate and black flash rate, but you're mainly using it for the ult skill gauge, which means you're not really getting too much damage off in those turns before you ult, and you're not even buffing yourself your damage output either, aside from your like crit and your black flash rate, to actually hopefully get increase of a boost in damage, right? A temporary Zenkai boost, you feel me? So I don't know how they can fix this character. Maybe on skill 2 attentive, like add a buff, like an actual buff that increases his damage, and then he'll get more value. Like there's no reason that he shouldn't be able to. If you do that, that's completely fine, right? You don't need to change anything else in this kit. You don't have to obviously upscale his ult so that way he matches other characters, because then his skill 2 will already be OP as it is, increasing crit hit rate, black flash rate, ultimate skill gauge, and then if he can increase his own damage, then there's no reason to actually add anything else, because that would be like one of the most OP buffs in the entire game overall, right? But if they don't decide to buff that, at least increase the modifiers for your ult. Then at least increase the modifier, make it a lot higher than it needs to be, so that way if you're using intensive and you're using like-minded sisters to get your ult quickly, then you can do more damage with your black flash every time you get to it, right? That definitely needs to be buffed. His skill 3 can use at least 400% physical damage. There's no reason that it can't be 400%. We have like characters like Yuta who have 600% in total. It's like, come on now, let's be real. So yeah, anyways, that character definitely needed a buff. Let's talk about the next character, which is actually going to be Panda. This is going to be the second time he gets buffed. The biggest drawback with Panda is the fact that he has 2 modes, and because he has 2 modes, you either want to use him for his tanking capabilities, and because you're using him for his tanking capabilities, you don't really need his ult, because once you go into his ult, then you're not going to really be tanking anymore. You're going to be doing damage with him. And I'm not going to lie to you, there's no reason that he should be doing the damage on your team when you have characters like Geto, characters like Megami, characters like Green Gojo, who are all on like a different level than this character. It's like him even being able to do damage is kind of irrelevant and pointless. You only want him for his tanking capabilities, and how many times you actually need a tank? Very rarely, very rarely. Some of the times you just try to get by with memories and trying to nuke the enemies, so it's just like he doesn't have that much value there. I did like that they did adjust his curse energy cost from this skill from 40 to 25, so that was very good. But I think they just kind of need to increase the modifiers overall around his entire kit, and then kind of give him some kind of survivability post ultimate, so that way he can actually, you know, do some damage or at least tank a little bit more. That's it. That's literally it. Next up, let's talk about the next character. We're going to try to speed through this. So the next character is going to be Nanami. As you know, Nanami's on the, what's called global version and JP version. Definitely needs a buff. His damage output is kind of mid. That's about it, literally. His damage output is kind of mid. He has a good skill too, but everything else is like, yeah, whatever. It's literally whatever. Add a damage buff to his skill 2, he's even better. But yeah, damage output, nothing crazy. Nothing crazy in this case. He's very straightforward, and it's just like there's no reason to use him. Overtime work, they adjusted this. They didn't adjust this, and it's like I don't think they ever will, because it's like that's basically like kind of like his unique, how unique he is, where like after the 9th turn he gets a buff. So I just really don't like that. Just buff his damage overall. Buff his damage or increase how much he's gaining from this, because 9 turns is ridiculous work, especially if you're doing tower. This has no use. Waiting 9 turns in 99% of situations means your team is dead. I don't like that. That's I get it, it's supposed to be unique, but like it's just like he doesn't have any other buffs. Like he doesn't have any other passives or anything. Essentially, he's not doing anything for himself. No damage buffs, nothing. He's practically bland, straightforward, only crit hit rate and break damage. It's really bad. It literally does absolutely nothing. Crit hit rate and break damage. That's it. Like, are you fucking kidding me? So how you want me to do damage? I can't do damage. I'm just doing like base damage, no buffs, nothing. You even have characters like Yuji who are gonna do more damage because they can at least spam their ult, right? And then you have characters like, you know, of course, Green Gojo who has like double his modifier and then also can debuff and buff himself and do tons of damage. Even though he leaves in the turn that he ults, it doesn't matter. They're dead. And he doesn't need to wait like 9 turns or to start to get like any sort of like buff. It's just like, it's ridiculous. It's just so bad. This is so bad. Let's go on to the next characters, bro. The next characters we got is Toge Inumaki. So I don't have a problem with his kit. I just feel like they should increase his debuff modifiers. So increase the debuff modifiers because they're only already for 2 turns. So if they can increase this to 50% for 2 turns, this will be fine. Now you might be saying, oh, well, that would be too OP or whatever. No, we have Megami in the game. Megami does 100% damage taken increase to the enemy, and you could stack it 3 times. This will be fine. 50% in 2 turns. That just gives you more. That gives you at least 100% even when you're not using Megami, and that's good enough. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and then obviously increasing on break damage is good. 153% is nice. Next up, we are going to have our next SSR, which is going to be Mechamaru. I don't really see too much play from this character aside the people who really like Mechamaru. He is a yellow character, but obviously he gives himself counter status. But if like enemies are hitting you with AoEs, it's like, okay, not really that useful. He also doesn't, like, of course, taunt them to him, so you also have to hope that he gets hit as well. It's just very, very awkward and very weird. So I don't really, like, I don't understand. Like, maybe you can try to cheese some, like, fights, I guess. Like, if there's just one boss left and it's just him, you can just keep spamming Ultra Shield. But, like, I mean, eventually you'll run out of Cursed Energy. Because eventually you'll just be at 10 Cursed Energy and you won't be able to use it every turn. If this was 10, that would make it spammable and that would be crazy. Ultra Spin, nothing crazy. Does okay damage. Increases break damage as well. So he can break. I really do like that he's essentially a breaker. Just this, he basically what he has is what I wish Inumaki has, but except Inumaki is also a debuffer, so it'd make him a lot better. I really wish this was an AoE attack, so that way he'd get more value, because we don't really have any AoE yellow attackers aside for, you know, Team Gojo and stuff like that. Like, obviously Inumaki single target, Nobara single target. I mean, you could get a spread with her nails, but she is also single target in the end. It's just like, and then obviously splitting the nails obviously decreases the amount of damage you can do to like a specific enemy. It's just very awkward and weird. I think he just needs a little bit more to him, like a little bit more damage. He doesn't have anything that's increasing his damage output. And obviously your main goal here is just to break and do damage with him. Obviously because you're doing counters and stuff, but he doesn't have any like buffs for damage. Characters that don't have buffs for their damage, or characters that don't have an absurd passive, they just kind of fall off. Like, for example, you have Toji. Now he doesn't have like crazy buffs for himself, but he has good ass debuffs, and then obviously his passive is an insane buff to himself, right? So it's like you know, you have to have something in your kit that increases your damage output if you're trying to be a damage dealer. Yeah, like he's just very lacking in the attacker department. Definitely could do better. Next up, we are going to have Junpei. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Junpei is actually starting to see a lot of play in the JP side, because obviously he is pretty tanky. So this decreases enemies' Jujutsu damage by 31%. So if any enemy does curse damage, this is insanely powerful. This is essentially what Geto has in his skill 2, but in his skill 1. This shit is OP as fuck. Just being able to do this with a skill 1 for free, decreasing the damage that they do 3 turns, you stack this shit. It's like, yeah, your team is not dying, by the way. So this is really powerful. His skill 2 is also insanely powerful, but I definitely think it needs a curse energy reduction. 30 curse energy is way too much. If you make it 20, then I would be more inclined in using it more often. Granting attack notification, attracting all enemies, and decreasing allies damage received. This is probably one of the best, like, you know, taunting skills in the entire game, just because obviously he'll nullify the damage to himself. He'll attract everybody to him. It's like, you know, he'll also decrease all damage received. I think it's really powerful. Just change the 1 time to like maybe 2 times, because like if there's multiple mobs, then like obviously you're only going to take 1 hit. So I feel like if there's like 4 mobs, at least being able to take 2 hits would be nice. Then you have Poison Stab. Poison in his kit is completely shit. I ain't gonna hold you. Ult is also completely shit because of the poison. The poison is just not that good. Yeah. decreases select enemies jujutsu damage by 48%. So that is good because you pair it up with his skill 1, and yeah, they're gonna do like no damage. Then you also have Don't Hold Me Back. This shit is just complete trash. Like, I hate that you're forced to use specific characters on your team to actually get a buff for the characters. So Don't Hold Me Back is essentially holding him back. This is just ridiculous, and I don't know why it's a damage buff when clearly this character was meant to be more of a defensive character, right? Now, obviously, they stated as an attacker, but he is no shot. This character is an attacker. His damage output is horrendous. He is. They thought that poison was gonna cook. That poison was indeed not cooking. So yeah, they just definitely need to, of course, put you know, Don't Hold Me Back. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. Then we have Todo, which is the SR Todo, and SR Todo is literally just an SR character, just increases modifiers, I guess. I don't think he really needed a crazy buff. He was like a lot of people's yellow damage dealer for a bit when they didn't have Nobara, and he did do pretty decent damage. He increases his own damage, so that way he has value in his ult. So it's a little bit higher damage than it needs to be. And then obviously he can break. He does good damage. He buffs his physical damage. You can stack that 4 times. You know, he actually did pretty good damage overall compared to other yellow characters like, you know, Inumaki, etc. Right? But anyways, that's basically going to be all the buffing excuse me, not all the buffing characters. It's going to be all the characters that are getting buffed on the JP side. So I can't wait to see how they're going to be good. If they're going to be worse, better, or well, they probably won't be worse because they're obviously all buffs. But I can't wait to see if they're actually going to make a change that's going to actually make the character more usable or more viable than they already are, right? But anyways, I know it was a very long video, but I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.